Where are we? Amara asked the Sentinel. You know her? What's happening? The Sentinel leaned against the railing, holding his head, trying to think of how to fight back. Let me take you back to the past. The past? You're in the year 3047. The war has come to the present. Well, your future, Vax said. Why here and now? The Sentinel asked. I don't know. Vax turned to the Sentinel. Who is this? She gestured to Amara. I'll explain after I send her back. No, wait, hold on. Amara held her head and paced. Who is she? Vax held up her box. We've got all the time we need. The Sentinel looked up at Vax with a pained expression. She's a Tempest. Vax stared back wide-eyed and understanding. Another explosion burst at the base of Vax's building, shaking its core. We've got to get out of here. You weren't lying? Amara yelled. Who are you? Who's the Sentinel? The Sentinel flared his fists. I have to protect these people. Stay here. Sentinel, wait! Vax grabbed the Sentinel in Amara's arms, taking them both with the Sentinel as he appeared in front of the marching army of consonant clones, led by Rogar. The box's shield surrounded them. Rogar! The Sentinel stood up. Sentinel, get down! Vax threw down her box, forming a second shield. All of the clone army bombarded the shields with laser fire. After they stopped, Rogar floated near the shield. Amara screamed at the sight of him. Leave this world alone, Rogar, the Sentinel exclaimed.
You weren't supposed to be here in this time.
I'm a time traveler.
A privilege you do not deserve.
Leave Earth alone. Find somewhere else. I will always be here to protect it.
Why would I?
Rogar slithered around the shields.
I set out for land for my people, and here it is, prime for the taking. My destiny demands that I do this. I didn't choose this planet. It chose me.
Rogar floated up. You say that, but you still have a choice. There are plenty of uninhabited planets. The majority of planets, even. You found a second Iliospherium. What's the big idea with Earth? What's the big idea with Earth?
This is beyond my people now.
Rogar roared.
You destroyed our home.
You killed my daughter.
And you, the protector of worlds, think that is a fair trade?
Rogar snarled. The Sentinel grimaced, saying nothing.
I have no say in the matter of conquering Earth and killing you. It is merely a bonus that I get to have revenge as well. You can't defend them all.
Rogar gestured to the city.
This army is one of many. We have an army in every city across the entire planet. You're just one person.
You know full well there's more than one of me. Amara stepped back, her head pounding as her confusion confounded.
We have nearly 1 billion clones on this planet alone at this very moment. What can any number of you do to stop them?
For the first time ever, the Sentinel felt completely hopeless. He was at a loss for words. His eyes darted back to Vax and Amara, then back to Rogar. The clones aimed at the shields again. Thoughts swarmed in the Sentinel's mind. He wanted nothing more than to protect the people of Earth. All of his enemies were in one spot, but so was everyone he needed to protect. His mind was at war. Protect the people, kill the enemy. All Rogar wanted was Earth. He could give it to him, and it would all be over. Vax. The Sentinel shut his eyes tight, holding onto his head. Tell someone we need to evacuate. Where? Vax's voice trembled. She was as hopeless as the Sentinel was. Anywhere but this planet. Off-world? Sentinel, are you insane? Go. The Sentinel fell to the ground, still holding his head. AJ, Sentinel, whatever. Amara couldn't keep her eyes off Rogar. Her voice shook with fear. What the hell is going on here? I don't know. The Sentinel ran through the shield, caught a flame, and began to fight back against Rogar and the clones. Vax picked up her box and ran from the shield in the opposite direction, looking for help. Amara stayed, cowering in the shield. She patted her side. She wore a holster, concealing her trusty pistol. She took a deep breath and ran after Vax. What are you doing? Helping! Amara struggled to keep up with Vax at first, but she ran ahead, leaving Vax close behind. Who are you? Amara Tempest. Amara struggled to breathe. She was running for her life. Not your name. Who are you? Why are you helping? I don't know. I just thought AJ was a looker. I didn't think I'd be here, but it seems like the right thing to do. The two of them kept running in an arbitrary direction until Vax spotted something. The CSA building. We could evacuate into space maybe, save a few of us. Amara stopped running, and Vax did shortly after. They stood far apart, silent, as the sounds of war blasted behind them. What about everyone else? What do you mean? Vax looked at Amara, confused. Surely the spaceships, even this far in the future, couldn't carry everyone. Vax hesitated, looking down at the ground. Near them, the screams of innocence and the laser fire raged on. The plasmatic explosions and Rogar's bellowing roars echoed through the night. They can't. But we can save a few. Look, lady, you don't know what's going on here. Vax marched up to Amara. She stood short in front of her, looking up at her. They have the entire planet surrounded. There's nothing we can do but evacuate. It's the only way the Sentinel can save the most people. Otherwise, Rogar will wipe the slate clean for his people. Can't the Sentinel win? He has superpowers. He can't win against an army of 1 billion. He told me to evacuate the people, and that's what I plan on doing. Vax looked away, then back at Amara. Whether you want it or not, you're part of something bigger now. You have to see the bigger picture. Vax turned around and ran toward the CSA building. You don't trust his judgment either, do you? Vax continued running, not responding. Amara stood still, pondering. An explosion of plasma burst far behind her, and she sprang back into a sprint. She made her way to the CSA building, making her way through the halls, looking for Vax. What do you mean it's impossible? You've got to be able to save someone. Amara was catching the middle of a conversation. Vax was pleading with CSA employees. She couldn't understand it, they were speaking in French. None of our ships are at high capacity. I'm afraid the most we can bring is 40 people max. One of the employees informed Vax, afraid to come to terms with it himself. That's not enough. Vax turned to Amara, her eyes wet with fear. What do we do? The sounds of sirens blasted through the building. A large docking garage opened, and on the other side sat a massive Andromedan cargo ship. Vax slammed her box to the ground, calling the shield, and beckoning for Amara to jump in. Dust settled as the ship landed, and CSA employees readied for fire. Amara withdrew her pistol, holding it outside the shield. Wait! Vax yelled. She spotted a figure. Hold your fire! Glad it was you and not the Sentinel. If it were, he would have shot me down for sure. The Paradox Master stepped out from the dust, straightening his jacket. I commandeered a ship, heard you guys needed some evacuation help. Who is that? Amara asked Vax. She couldn't keep her eyes off the Paradox Master. She continued to hold up her pistol, cautiously. The Paradox Master's smile faded for a moment as his eyes met Amara's. The Paradox Master, at your service. Amara Tempest, she introduced herself cautiously. I know. The Paradox Master spoke softly. Vax stared confused at the Paradox Master. She shook her head. Okay guys, enough with the small talk. We've got a lot of people to save. A lot is an understatement. The Paradox Master turned back to the ship, running. He stopped at the entrance. This baby can hold up to 5,000 people. Not much in the grand scheme of things, but it's much better than, 40? I still don't like the idea of abandoning the planet. Amara spoke up. Isn't that just giving the bad guys what they want? You've got to lose some to win some, the Paradox Master quipped. We're talking about human lives here, Vax interjected, picking up her box and disabling the shield. Lives and history. This planet is more than a rock. This is no joking matter, Paradox Master. Right, sorry. I live on a scale grander than you can imagine. Sometimes it's hard to ground myself again. It's unfortunate, but the Sentinel's instincts don't betray him. This needs to happen. Where do we go? The CSA employee spoke up. It's not like we have anywhere but this planet. Mars was our only failsafe, but we lost that almost 1,000 years ago. I know a place. A safe place. The Paradox Master stood straight. But in the meantime, everyone, get in. What about the Sentinel? Amara stood up, finally lowering her pistol. You'll be fine. Come on, let's go. The Paradox Master, Amara, and a few employees ran into the ship. Vax stood still. Wait! Vax spoke at almost a yell. The Paradox Master stopped, as did everyone else. He looked down at her with a questioning look. I'm staying. For the Sentinel. The Paradox Master hesitated, like he didn't want her to stay. Regardless, he held himself back. All right. Well, I want to stay too, Amara interjected. No, you can't stay. He grabbed her by the shoulders and placed her further from the door. Why not? Amara pleaded. I have a gun. Exactly. The Paradox Master pressed a button, and the entrance hatch started to close. Good luck, Vax. Rally as many people as you can. Build that ship to the brim if you have to, Vax yelled back while running out of the building. The Paradox Master saluted her as the hatch snapped shut. The ship wafted up tons of dust and blasted off to save as many people as it could. The Sentinel lay on the ground, surrounded by clones as Rogar floated menacingly above him. He tried to get up but was pushed back down by Rogar's dangling tail.
How many times do I have to tell you?
Rogar scoffed.
I will always win.
Rogar sounded out each word.
My fate is written in the history of all tomorrows.
He lifted his tail from the Sentinel's chest and floated to the ground. He began to slither like a snake around the Sentinel, closing him in.
The future is sealed. My victory has been foreseen. This planet will soon be ours. As the humans die, we take over.
Rogar's nostrils spouted small flames of plasma with every breath he took. Despite Rogar's menacing words, the Sentinel remained quiet.
I gave your people a chance when I first descended on this world. You could have saved them. But you made it personal.
You take every habitable planet for yourself, that's your plan? Spread the Gars galaxy-wide? The Sentinel asked.
You simplify things.
Rogar stopped slithering.
But yes.
And if Canada Prime wasn't habitable?
You're not proposing what I think you are you, Sentinel?
Rogar continued slithering.
Because if you are, you may be more well-suited for our alliance than I once thought.
It's for the betterment of humanity.
I don't think destroying Earth's habitability is for the betterment of humanity, is it? Wherever you go, we will follow. You are my destiny. You can't escape this endless push and pull. Any planet you grace with your protective presence is doomed to fall until you fall with it.
Sentinel. Vax stood over a pile of rubble and wrecked cars. Is that your plan? Vax! The Sentinel sat up. Did you evacuate anyone? The Andromedan cargo ship blasted through the sky into space behind Vax. She looked at it, then back at the Sentinel. 5,000 civilians. It was the best we could do. Better than I expected. Sentinel, is that your plan? Is Rogar right? The Sentinel stayed silent. Every fiber of his being fought against it. But as the box glowed by him, something pushed at his mind. As most things in his life seemed to be, this was more than it seemed. This idea wasn't random. It was purposeful. In fact, it wasn't an idea. It was a memory. A fragmentary memory from his time as the first Sentinel during the 5 years he was away was pushing at his mind. He remembered the name of a planet. New Earth. This needed to happen. The Sentinel didn't know why. He didn't want it, but he knew that something would come of the sacrifice. This needed to be done. The Paradox Master was pulling the strings of reality. As the Sentinel once told himself, he needed to play his part. Rogar smiled wide, looking up at Vax.
Oh, I think it is his plan,
He hissed.
I really do think it is. That's great.
Rogar floated back up.
Watch as your hero becomes the villain, the protector of worlds, destroying his home planet and his enemy, fighting to protect his kind. Looks like I have the moral high ground on this one, Sentinel.
Vax's box lit up. She pressed a panel and listened. It was out of earshot of the Sentinel. 5 billion.
What?
Rogar snarled. We were able to evacuate 5 billion people from around the world. Vax nodded at the Sentinel. Do it.
No, that's impossible.
Rogar roared. The Sentinel jumped up from the ground, planting a shield and spreading plasma all around him. Clones burned as Rogar tried to break through the shield. Vax planted hers and fired away. The Sentinel placed his palms on the ground beneath him. The ground began to crack, and a faint purple light shone from below. His eyes glowed a bright white, and his arms shook as power pulsated through the earth. Wait, Sentinel! Vax jumped from her shield, blasting Rogar in his eye with a ball of plasma as he tried to break the Sentinel's shield. The Sentinel's shield cracked, but Vax was able to push Rogar away. Rogar held his hand over his smoldering right eye. He grimaced in pain and laughed.
Fire at the girl.
Rogar vanished through a portal, and the clone army barraged Vax with laser fire. Vax! The Sentinel threw his box at her feet, forming the shield around her. He blasted the clone army with waves of plasma. The ground beneath him cracked and burst with plasmatic power. The ground shook with such a force that the clones who hadn't escaped were crushed by falling rubble. The Sentinel ran to Vax after the clones had stopped fighting back. Vax, your box! The Sentinel shook her. He knew she was dying. There was one option left to keep her alive. Use it! Sentinel. Vax struggled to turn her head to face him. Her body was burned with cauterized laser wounds. I'm so sorry. No, you're not dying. The Sentinel picked up her box. The ground beneath began to burst, and an Andromedan ship exploded near them. I built that box to protect you. The Sentinel pressed down on 2 of her box's panels. I knew this would happen. It was the only way it could make sense. Vax coughed up blood, confused in her dying breaths. Let me die. She managed to cough up. It hurts. No, I promise you it will all make sense. The Sentinel lightly pressed the glowing box against her abdomen, trying his best not to hurt her. It all makes sense. Sentinel, you need to get out of here. Vax's face was draining of color as her wounds reopened, blood spilling. The box began to glow a bright purple. Vax's body was surrounded by bright plasma. It flowed through her veins, her wounds sealing as the light passed over them. Her hair grew longer, losing its unnatural purple color in favor of a dark brown. Her face reformed, more refined, into a very familiar face to the Sentinel. She was taller, grander in stature as she stood up quickly, feeling her face and looking down at her new body. Vax had phased, and everything finally did make sense for the Sentinel in that moment. The Sentinel held his hands to the ground and continued his progress in making the Earth uninhabitable, seeping plasma through to its core. Did you just do what I think you— Oh, wow, the voice. Vax stood up, grabbing her box from the Sentinel. She held onto her throat, shocked at her loss of a French accent. Come on, we gotta get out of here. If only you could see your face right now, the Sentinel smiled. Yeah, that'd be helpful because you changed it, you ass, Vax laughed. Oh, come on, I saved you. The Sentinel stood up, but we should get out of here. The world is ending. The two of them flashed away, appearing on the same ship that Amara boarded. Sentinel, what's going on down there? Amara turned to face him, as did the Paradox Master. The Sentinel stood silent for a while, staring back at the Paradox Master. He turned to look out of the window of the cargo ship. The world beneath him was swallowed up with plasma, burning everything on the surface, and destroying the Earth's atmosphere, dissolving it into space, making the planet an unlivable hell. It's the end of the world, Amara. Mark your calendars for 3047. And it's my fault. A silence fell over the cargo hold. Families, children, and their pets huddled up on the floor of the ship. The ambient humming of the engine purred as the planet behind them burned with a bright purple glow. A regretful tear dripped down the Sentinel's cheek. He felt that he had made the wrong choice. He looked at the box. It whirred. Somehow, he knew he hadn't. Where's Vax? Amara cleared her throat, trying to break the silence. Right here? Vax spoke up. But, I know. I was dying and my box healed me, by rebuilding me in a way. Reincarnating, healing, phasing, the Sentinel clarified. It happens to me from time to time. He looked up at the Paradox Master, sternly. Sometimes even when I don't need it. If you're gonna hang around the Sentinel, you should get used to it now, Vax warned. She turned and addressed the people on the ship. Does anyone have a phone I could borrow? A civilian sitting against a wall near her handed her a phone. Vax turned on the camera and faced it toward herself. She smiled for a split second before holding her hand over her mouth. She angled the camera to the side, then up, the other side. You knew this whole time, didn't you? She asked the Sentinel. After she told me her name, I sort of pieced it together. Vax let out a small laugh and wiped away a tear. Oh, wow. She laughed again. I'm going to be an astronaut. Vax and the astronaut were one and the same. Vax thought about it for a second. But wait. She looked up at the Sentinel. If I'm the astronaut, if she's me, or however it works, that doesn't make any sense. The CSA building she would have worked at, that was on Canada Prime. You just destroyed it. The Sentinel smiled, holding out his hand. The two of them flashed away. Vax looked around. She told me her name after I came back from that jail. Foxtrot wouldn't stop staring at me. We had the same face. The Sentinel and Vax stood in front of the CSA building, back in 3036. I put in a good word for you. I don't even know how to fly or how to... They'll teach you, the Sentinel insisted. They said they would help you see the stars. Vax choked up and her eyes watered. Sentinel. She stared up at the building in tears. Why do you care so much for me? The Sentinel looked up at the building himself. I sympathize with you, I guess. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I understand the things you're going through. Vax looked toward the Sentinel. His eyes were still fixed on the CSA building in front of them. Vax opened her mouth to speak, but immediately closed it shut. Words eluded her. She couldn't ignore what was right in front of her. She put her hands up to his head, pulling him to face her. Wrapping her arms around his neck, she got up on her toes. Even then, she was too short to reach him. Before he even knew what was happening, she pulled him close and closed her eyes. For a second, their lips met. Not a moment passed before the man in front of her was gone. She opened her eyes to see nothing but empty space, and she was left there, alone. The Sentinel reappeared on the cargo ship. Sentinel? Amara stepped forward. Not now. The Paradox Master stopped her, looking up at him, nodding. The Sentinel walked past the two of them, through the crowds of civilians, into the cockpit. The Paradox Master followed him. Where are we going? The Sentinel asked in a monotone voice, staring ahead and not looking at the Paradox Master. IS-72. A starless planet owned by an old friend of mine, Daru. The Paradox Master looked out the edges of the cockpit, smiling at the many other cargo ships flying alongside them. Is it safe? The Sentinel turned around, finally making eye contact with the Paradox Master. What's the point in telling you if you won't believe me? He leaned against the doorway, straightening his jacket, letting the handle of his phase gun be seen. Why do you have to kill me? The Sentinel questioned him. He seemed so trustworthy, like a genuinely good person, but everything in the Sentinel's mind told him otherwise. I've seen the end. The Paradox Master stood straighter. I know how it ends. I know what happens. It can't be changed. What does that have to do with me? You have to die for it to turn out that way. At a certain time, a certain moment. When the time is right. If you don't, the paradoxes that would occur, why does it have to be you? I'd like to think we're almost friends, I mean aside from this. Because I'm the Paradox Master. What is that supposed to mean? He sighed, digging his hands into his pockets. Making sure timelines go smoothly and don't mess up is kind of in the job description. The cargo ship shuddered as it slowly eased out of its sub-light fast travel. The Paradox Master looked up through the thick glass toward a massive dark planet. That's the place. He let out a dry laugh, sitting down and turning off autopilot. He turned to face the Sentinel again. It's no Malibu, but it'll do the job. Habitable enough, I guess. How did you pull this off? The cargo ships. The Sentinel sat down next to the Paradox Master. I stole them. 1 million of them. The Paradox Master stared ahead as he steered closer to the planet. Who'd you get to fly all the ships? The Paradox Master sighed, adjusting himself in the seat as the ship started landing. He pushed his fingers through his messy hair. I flew them. I stole one, flew it here, went back in time, stole another, flew it here. You get the gist of it. 1 million times? The Sentinel stared back in awe. 500,000. I'm halfway through. He pulled back a lever as the ship landed, then pulled down on a handle on the ceiling, opening the cargo hold. That's insane! That would take you years, decades even. Hundreds. The Paradox Master stood, making his way to the door. Of years? The Sentinel stood up, following him. Decades. The Paradox Master ducked his head underneath the door and walked through the cargo hold as people poured through onto the surface of their new home. The Sentinel followed him. Amara chased after the Sentinel as soon as she spotted him. Why are you doing this? The Sentinel asked the Paradox Master, grabbing onto his jacket. He turned around, staring at the Sentinel. It's my job? So what, you do it for money? Not for the sake of humanity? No amount of money would be worth this life. So why is it your job? It's what I have to do. For my own sake, for everyone else's sake? So no one's paying you to kill me then. It's your decision. We've been over this, the Paradox Master yelled, scaring Amara as she hid behind the Sentinel. The Paradox Master coughed, holding his hand over his mouth. He turned to face the crowd of people that left the cargo ship. Salut! He greeted all of them in poor French. He explained to them their situation. Sentinel? Amara tugged on his coat. What's going on? The world just ended, and this is the backup apparently. The Sentinel looked over the planet and its dark black surface. The red horizon glowed mysteriously. There was no parent star to the planet. The Sentinel kneeled, sifting the black dirt through his fingers. Why here? He stood up. Several hundred cargo ships were in view, all forming a circle. Hundreds of thousands of Paradox Masters simultaneously pointed at the sky. The Sentinel approached the nearest Paradox Master. What's going on? More cargo ships, carrying materials this time. They're ready to start rebuilding. The Sentinel thought about it for a second, then asked, Why this planet? It's so dark, empty, lifeless. These people will lose hope. It's the second most habitable planet I know of that would be safe for these people. Without a star, it's almost invisible to any invaders. No one will find it. Second? The Sentinel asked. The other one doesn't exist yet. I'm waiting. You're waiting. The Paradox Master shuffled his feet. You said a guy named Daru owns this? The Sentinel put his hands in his pockets, pushing back his coat. Yes, I did. The Paradox Master watched as the supply ships landed. How did he find it? The Sentinel waited for an answer. Without one, he turned away. Wait! The Paradox Master turned around. Trust me. The Sentinel continued walking. He put his hand on Amara's shoulder, then gestured toward the box, floating near him. I assume you want to go home after all this? These people need help, look at them. Amara held back against the Sentinel. She looked over at the millions of people, families and children all piled up in groups, huddled under blankets. You sure got swept up into all this fast? Well, it's real. It would feel weird to abandon all this. They're safe for now. You need to go home. The Sentinel reached for his box, about to flash away when he spotted a figure in the distance. A large, dark, green-blue, blobby mass came floating towards them on a hovering platform. The Sentinel held out his arm and formed a finger gun with his hand, ready to fire. Wait! The nearest Paradox Master stopped the Sentinel, pushing his arm down as he shot into the ground. That's Daru.
We've got a problem.
The mass spoke in a deep, trembling voice. As it got closer, the Sentinel could make out a few more of the intricate details. The slug-like creature flopped off its platform and onto the ground, wafting up black dust. It dusted itself off as best it could with its 6 stubby arms. It blinked quickly and out of sync with its 4 bulbous red eyes.
An Andromedan fleet is headed our way. They don't see the planet, but it's right in their path.
So we fight. It's always a fight. The Sentinel straightened his coat, waiting for a response. We can't fight, Amara scolded the Sentinel. They'll figure out we're here. She's got a point. The Paradox Master looked at Daru for any ideas.
Well, I sure as hell don't want to be found.
Daru blubbered, breathing in deeply with his small mouth as he slugged along.
Don't really like the idea of being arrested. Not again, anyway. If I gotta be locked up with an Ilsian again, I'll snap.
So what are we gonna do? Kindly ask him to go around? We have to do something. The Sentinel tapped his foot in the ashy ground impatiently. We don't have another backup planet. We're lucky enough we have one at all. The millions of people from the cargo ship screamed as they looked toward the sky. The Sentinel, Amara, the Paradox Master, and Daru all looked up to see several Andromedan freighters warp into view. Well, it's too late now. The Paradox Master shifted his foot in the ground. You guys are gonna have to fight. You guys? Amara scoffed. You're not helping? I've got to stay back here with Daru to make sure all the people are safe. Try to keep the fight up there. Amara, he's right. We should go up there. But you don't have to go if you don't want to. Amara looked up, tapping her pistol by her side. She looked toward the crowds of people. I'll help. The Sentinel nodded, reaching for Amara's hand. She moved her arm out of the way and up onto his shoulder. They flashed away into a main corridor of one of the freighters. Amara looked around, then up at the Sentinel for assurance. So what do we do now? She pulled her pistol from her side. We cause as little conflict as possible. The Sentinel pushed Amara's pistol down. He snuck his head around the corner, and he could see into the cockpit. He snapped into action, whipping a plasma lasso around the pilot. He pulled him toward himself. Where is the ship headed? He demanded. The plasma lasso burned into the pilot's side. We're just a delivery crew, swear on it. The pilot blurted out. What are you delivering? The Sentinel scolded the pilot. Sentinel? Amara interjected, concerned. Spices! Spices! The pilot yelled. The Sentinel dissipated the lasso. We're delivering spices, the pilot repeated himself. You're all clones, the Sentinel pointed out. Aren't the Andromedan clones meant for war? They've repurposed the pilot thought nervously. The rejects? Was that a question? The Sentinel squinted suspiciously at the pilot. He readied his hands for fighting, just in case. Sentinel, you're going to want to see this, Amara called from her cargo crate, holding the top up. The pilot instantly pulled up his rifle, as did the crewmates behind him. Put down the lid, the pilot threatened her. The Sentinel's hands lit aflame. Turn the ship around and never come back. No one has to die. We have the Andromeda Galaxy's most wanted man at gunpoint. Why would we do that? Amara dropped the lid and crouched down, drawing her pistol. She shot the pilot in the knee. Gah! The pilot fell to the ground, screaming in pain. The Sentinel turned around. Amara? Sentinel, they're transporting bombs! Atmosphere bombs, one of the crew members yelled. We've tracked your friend, Daru. We know your hideout. Atmosphere bombs. The Sentinel stood up slowly. A crew member raised his rifle. The Sentinel flared his fist and the crew member lowered his rifle. Sentinel, what do we do? Amara loaded her pistol nervously. The Sentinel looked down, pondering his options. He lifted his arm and shot the screaming injured pilot. The other crew members opened fire, but the Sentinel had already raised his box's shield. Amara rolled into the shield and raised her pistol. She took out every crew member before the Sentinel could. The Sentinel turned to Amara and nodded. He lowered the shield and made his way to the bomb crate, and he lifted the top. Amara, roughly how many freighters would you say you saw? Like 5? Amara was still crouched down, grasping her pistol tightly in her sweaty hands. Like? Come on, Amara, think. How many did you see? The Sentinel paced around near the bomb. 6, definitely 6. Amara stood up, still not lowering her pistol. Good. The Sentinel smiled, raising his hands up to his head, pushing them through his hair. Perfect. Why? What is it? The Andromedans already know where the planet is, but if they weren't able to get to it, what harm could they do? What are you saying? If we position the freighters, 1 over each pole of the planet and 4 around the equator, like a cube, then we could blow up the bombs, and make some sort of radiation force field around the planet. Exactly, Amara. The Sentinel grabbed her by the shoulders excitedly. But how? Amara asked, skeptical about the plan. You wouldn't happen to know how to fly an advanced alien-human spaceship from another galaxy, would you? No, Amara stated matter-of-factly. You're right, wishful thinking on my part. The Sentinel let go of her shoulders and turned around, pacing with his head down. Right, of course, the Sentinel yelled in an excited epiphany. What is it? Amara asked as the Sentinel ran past her and over the dead pilot. He made his way to the control panel and ripped off the main panel. He shoved the box into the loose wires and twisted its outer circles like dials. He turned around, smiling. He slammed the box's face and the entire ship teleported. The shake of such a massive movement shook Amara and the Sentinel. What did you do? Amara stood, wide stance and wide-eyed, her arms out for balance. We've teleported. The entire freighter now orbits directly over the planet's north pole. Now what? 5 more to go, the Sentinel smiled. Daru and the Paradox Master stood in the sands of the lone planet as millions of people cowered in fear. All but one of the Paradox Masters had left. Only the one the Sentinel came with remained. Everyone looked up to the sky, waiting for an inkling of hope to shine through, when suddenly, one of the 6 freighters vanished. Murmurs sparked amongst the groups of people. Daru looked at the Paradox Master questioningly. The Paradox Master let out a sigh of relief. There he goes.
What is he doing?
Daru asked. What I expected he would. These people will be safe, the Paradox Master reassured Daru. Again, another freighter vanished from the sky. Shortly after, another one. The last remaining freighter teleported slightly westward in the sky. We need to make sure all of these freighters explode at the same time to avoid a chain reaction. The Sentinel placed his hand on Amara's shoulder. Shoot the bomb, and right when you do, I'll teleport us away. These things aren't on timers. How are all going to go off at the same time like this? Amara, this is a time machine. Your gun will fire off at the same time, 6 times. Alright, okay. Amara took a deep breath and held out her pistol with both hands, and tried not to let her nerves get to her. Her arms were shaking. The Sentinel held onto the box tightly in one hand and Amara's shoulder with the other. Shoot when I tell you. You ready? The Sentinel looked at Amara. She nodded slightly, staring down the bomb, not blinking, with shaky arms. Go! The Sentinel yelled. Amara pulled the trigger, and the second the bomb sparked, they flashed away. Go! The The Sentinel yelled again, and the second they appeared in front of the next bomb, Amara shot again. They flashed away. Go! Another shot. Flash away. Go! Another blast. Teleport. Go! Another one. They flashed away. Go! The Sentinel yelled again. Amara blinked. Her shaky arms got the best of her, and she missed, just skimming the bomb. Amara! The Sentinel quickly looked out of the window, watching as the radiation from the other ship spread. Sentinel, I'm sorry, that was the last bullet. We've got to get you out of here. You skimmed the bomb, now it's leaking. The Sentinel flashed away, back to the surface of the lone planet. They appeared next to the Paradox Master and Daru. That bomb won't explode, not after that. The force field has a gap in it now. We just can't let them know about it, Amara reassured the Sentinel. The Paradox Master and Daru, along with all the other civilians, watched as a firework display of explosions spread green and purple gas around the entire planet. Daru shook his large head and blinked his eyes. He slowly turned to the Sentinel and asked,
What did you do?
They brought radiation bombs. I blew them up. The radiation will orbit in a cloud just above the atmosphere. They tracked you, Daru, but now they can't get onto the planet's surface. Their ships would disintegrate on impact. The radiation is too strong, and the entire planet is surrounded, the Paradox Master clarified. Except one gap. Amara looked down at the ground, mad at herself for her mistake. The Sentinel didn't take notice. No one can get in or out except from that gap. Focus your transportation and military protection there, the South Pole. Well, that's convenient, the Paradox Master noted. He straightened his jacket and took a deep breath. Speaking of inconveniences, I actually have to take a break from transporting stolen cargo ships for a second and take a little trip to Mars. Mars blew up, the Sentinel pointed out to him. Wait, what? Amara questioned the Sentinel. See, that's actually where you come in, Sentinel. The Paradox Master smiled. You're going to help me make sure that happens. The Sentinel paused, staring blankly at the ground. He opened his mouth wide and held his hands up to his head. Oh. The details were coming back to him. Right, okay. He looked back around at Amara. I think it's about time you got home, wouldn't you say? No, not really, Amara spoke confidently. I can help, and if I can't go with you, I can stay back here for a bit and help. I can help. Amara seemed to be trying to prove something to herself with a sudden burst of confidence. All right. Wait, no! Amara quickly remembered. My sister! The kids! Oh god, how could I forget? Oh, right. Weren't we just proving to her that I'm a time traveler? Sorry about that. Do you believe me now? I do. Didn't think the end of the world would be my afternoon. Alright, enough small talk, let's go. The Paradox Master grabbed Amara and the Sentinel's shoulders. The Sentinel reached out for the box, and they flashed away.